big announcement. Burn My Mood. Episode 2 with Louis Ward. We had to cut it into 2 parts because, well, the video cut out and I am a one-woman team. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Make sure you've listened to part 1, otherwise none of this is going to make sense. You've missed a lot of juicy stuff. Now here's the rest of the juicy stuff. Love you all lots. This is Jay, your host. I hope you enjoy.
For the sheer scope of grief and wasted human potential, we have a moral obligation to understand the ultimate reasons why we destroy one another.
The shoe fits, wear it.
Literally. Okay, so we were talking about your friend going to Thailand and giving you his ice bath.
Yes, so he come round and he set the ice bath up in the garden. I'd say it was about 7 hours before he flew to Thailand. I don't know why he was so... I think he saw in me that I was serious about this sobriety thing. And he's had his battles in the past as well. I won't name him, but he knows who he is, obviously. He's had his battles in the past and was trying to come out the other side. And he felt that the ice bath was a big thing for him that kind of got him going. So he said, it's suited to you, man. So he set it up and then he filled it up and he went, right, in you get. I was like, no, I don't need to do it right now, mate. And he's like, you do because you won't. Get in it now. So I got in and I was in there for 30 seconds and I got straight out. I was like, mate, I can't feel my shins. It's horrendous. He goes, I promise you get through that first minute and you'll be fine and then it will all calm down. I was like, nah, I'm all right. Got back in. And he was like, look, I've got a timer on, mate. I've got a timer on. All you got to do is 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And I was like, it's been 3 minutes. He went, it hasn't. It's been 45 seconds. I was like, time goes so slow. And I was like, this is horrendous.
Yeah.
In the end, he did stitch me up and he got me in there for 5. So anyway, I got out after 5 and I was like, I get it kind of, but I will do it and see how I feel. And then I noticed, because I was I didn't know if it was a placebo or not, because you're looking for a change. So you're like, oh my God, I did just do the washing up when I don't normally. That was the ice bath. Like, it isn't. Like, the ice bath did not cause me to suddenly become a house husband, but I know that it was giving me a little bit more productivity, I'd say.
Yeah.
Then I started just doing it more and more and more, and I noticed a massive change. I've always flagged at dead on 3 p.m. Dead on it is like clockwork at work. The moment it hits 3 p.m, I either used to yawn or I'd ask for a Red Bull and I'd look at the time and it was 1 minute to 3, 1 minute past 3. It was like bang. It was so weird. And then I started doing the ice baths and that didn't happen. And I was like, oh my God. I looked at the time. I was like, so I haven't drank. I've had 3. I never was caffeine anyway, but I've only had 3 caffeinated drinks since being sober. I don't rely on it. Like, I don't feel like I need it as a person. I'm a hyperactive person anyway. I feel it would be detriment to me more than helpful. So I'd stopped drinking. Whereas when I was obviously drinking, I did drink a lot of Red Bull. Every day I had a Red Bull at 3 p.m.
It was good for a hangover sometimes.
Great for a hangover, for that last bit to get me through that slog that I call kids coming out of school, people coming out of work until 6 o'clock. That last 3 hours was
busy.
Yeah, and it was too much. So Red Bull got me through it. Whereas now I don't touch it at all. And I feel the ice bath has done that in a sense of it got me through that part.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know the science behind everything. I actually don't care for it. People go, well, what it is, it does this, it does that, and it brings in, it's the closest endorphins to cocaine. And I'm like, is it? Like, I don't know. Like, but it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm now at that point of it where I've been doing it for the last 11 months and I'm still sober and I still feel good. So why on earth would I stop doing it now?
Yeah.
Not as if I'm going to stop doing it and then suddenly I go, right, beer then. Like, I don't feel that way, but I'm like, why would I faff with it? It's a winning formula. Stick with it. I feel like I didn't realise how much I clearly relied on routine because of my troubles.
Yeah.
Now my routines are just good routines, but I'm still the same. I'm still an addict. It's now the ice bath, it's now golf, it's now work, it's now my son. So I've just switched him to something else.
Yeah. And
I just feel that good fun. Now I don't get that, oh my God, get me out. I now just sit in there and I go on my phone. I do a little 1 minute video every morning. I stopped doing that for a while and I was like, no one cares for this. And then I started getting messages from people like, have you stopped ice bathing? Like, I look forward to those in the morning. Random people that I know-ish and again that I've worked with in the past.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, people actually do care. I thought it was just me rambling for a minute and no one's interested. I was very surprised that people actually did care for that.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was just mundane content for content's sake.
And also, you got to think, when you were talking about routine works for you,
Yeah.
it works for other people too.
Exactly that.
So when you consistently show up and you stop, people actually kind of worry about you.
100%.
They're like,
yeah,
you all right?
Yeah. It's
Do you need TED
accountability.
Talk?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's accountability. Like, if you put it out there into the ether and people know about it, if you bodge it, people will also know about it. So you think, I best stick with this.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the sobriety side of it. It's why I had to make it public. Same thing with the ice bath stuff. Ice bath stuff. People are kind of like, have you stopped doing that? Like, no. So then I thought, I best carry on doing it.
Yeah.
Even if it's only 3 people that notice it, those 3 people matter because it obviously gave them something as well. And one of my mates said, he goes, it kills me. I'd be laying there with a hangover and I'd wake up and first story I'd see is you in the ice bath. Morning, everyone. How are we? Ready for the day? Take care. And I'm sat there going, it's 11 a.m. and I've just woke up.
Yeah.
And I'd feel bad for not doing what you were doing.
Yeah.
And it'd give me the right, let's get my shit together. And even if it does that for one person, I'm like, that's all I need. Like,
Yeah.
That's all I'm not trying. I don't want to be a guru. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But if it means one person just goes, maybe I should have a look at myself,
Yeah.
then sound. I don't need them to tell me that, but it's nice when they do.
Yeah.
Like, because it means that someone's getting something from what I see as crap. Like crap.
But also, people do really enjoy the authenticity. Like,
Yeah.
people like not being sold something, but to be inspired. That's,
Yeah.
that's a strong pillar in marketing is inspiration and motivation. And sometimes people don't want to be forced something, but they want to be inspired. That is what social media is for. So when you're putting something out there, like, that makes you feel good about yourself, that makes you feel like you're better in yourself, it's never a negative.
Well, people can see through the bullshit.
Yeah.
All of us can. Right? The moment you see influencers ads and they're like, oh my God, this is possibly the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. My teeth feel amazing. Like, you're like, okay. But it's so forced. You can tell when it's an ad in the sense of like they're doing it for not because they like it, but because it's a thing. Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
We can see through it as consumers, right? And I think that's the same with people. Like, you can see through someone's Instagram, people are so worried how it looks, and I'm very wary of that. I don't want to put across that I'm having the greatest time in life and sobriety is so easy if it isn't, but it is. What I say is how I feel. Like, this is how I feel. I don't walk out of here and go, another day without a drink. Hi guys, how are we all? Yeah, great day. I don't do that. It's legit because people did see through it. Like, if they saw me walking down the high street with a raincoat on, like, sad, they go, he looked well happy 45 minutes ago in the ice bath, and I'm shivering down the high street. Like, people would see through it. And I try not to do that in anything I do. I try not to do it at work. I try not to do it in my conversations with people because people see through it. I see through it. I think I've always been good at reading people. It's a big part of my job because you have to know who to talk to, who doesn't want to be spoken to, who you can say one thing, who you can swear in front of, who you can't, who you call sir, who you call mate. You get it wrong, you lose a customer.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
You have to know it. You have to know, and I feel that's what I now do in my normal day life as well. Like, some people don't want to be spoon fed it. Some people need to be. My brother, he has to be told that's right, that's wrong. You have to with him. Can he go, yeah, you're all right, mate. Whereas my dad don't want that. My dad's not that kind of person. If I said, have you seen this? Yeah, cool. He didn't even look. Then he'll show me it 2 days later. Have you seen this? Yes, I showed you it. Like, it's like, that's just how he is. Like,
I tagged you in that. Look in the comments.
You, yeah. And he'll be like, no, you didn't. I'm like, scroll up. There, you liked it. You even put a thumbs up because he's a dad. Thumbs up. Like, yeah, like, and that's how some people see it. Like, some people need to see it 2 or 3 times. Some people don't. Like, with the ice bath stuff, it's just, it was for me. It wasn't for anyone else.
Yeah.
It was for accountability. And to also change, like I was saying, with my weird thing now is I can't stop looking at my memories. 1 year ago today on Snapchat, 2 years ago, same with Instagram. I can't wait in a couple of months' time. Those 1 year ago todays will be good.
Yeah.
Not shit. So one day I'll look and go, there we go. This is where the ice bath started. 1 year ago. Oh my God. So 1 year ago today I was in the ice bath. Oh, 1 year ago today I was here too. And then 2 years before it's me absolutely levered somewhere. And I'm like, I can see the progression over a year.
Yeah.
And it's there for that because it's like the cloud's a real thing there. It's there. I can see it 1 year ago today. And I need that to be better than what it was. So yeah, that's a real reason for it, a big reason for it as well.
No, it's good. It's good because I've read a lot about ice baths, and I've seen that they do something to your body temperature as well that actually, I don't know if it increases dopamine, but it helps you calm
That's what
down.
it is. Yeah. That's the bit, that's the science that I do know of it. Like, it's the dopamine hit that was supposed to be the closest to a drug or whatever that was natural.
Yeah.
But then there's also other stuff, same as anything. You see all these scientific reports. Eat more eggs, they make you more fertile. Don't eat eggs, they stop you having kids. Like, they, depending on what the science is they look at, they find what they're looking for. Whereas with the ice baths, I've seen other ones that will say, like, actually what it does is cause this problem. And I'm like, I haven't noticed that, so I'll carry on.
Yeah.
So once I start to notice, if I felt fatigued in a certain way, oh, it's actually bad for muscle recovery because it stops the muscles doing what they're supposed to do. Why does Cristiano Ronaldo use one? He looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, people that use them aren't sat there like, as in celebrity, again, it's endorsements, but Tommy Fury, Cristiano Ronaldo, all these like I am not a high profile athlete, that might surprise you, but they're doing pretty well with it. Like, and I don't see Conor McGregor, those sort of guys. I feel like they're doing that sort of thing. I don't see why they'd lie about it. Joe Rogan being the biggest one, like the biggest advocate for it. He's obviously the biggest podcaster in the world on paper for numbers, and he goes on about them. So when I saw it everywhere, and a lot of people that do it were sober. Russell Brand, I know his name's a bit mud at the moment, but Russell Brand's sober for
I
so
don't
long.
care what people say. I like Russell Brand.
I love him as a comedian. I
Yeah.
think he's hilarious. Whatever he's done, I don't read into or look into. But I love him for his, I'll say what I want to say.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about it, and he's no
Calls
filter.
out everything.
Yeah, even if it's right or wrong. Sometimes I disagree with what's said, but he'll say it regardless.
And he's not one of them people that forces something down your throat. He's just loud.
He just says what he's thinking.
He just
at that
says,
time.
this is what I think about it, but do your own research.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's never forced narrative as well.
Yeah.
That's what I think is good for that. But he does the ice baths. Dapper Laughs, as I say, was a big part doing the ice baths, and he's about 3 months ahead of me with sobriety. So I think he's about 3-4 months ahead. So he was 4 months sober when he started the podcast, or around that, and I obviously would just started out. So I look at what he was doing, and he was doing cold plunges, and then Joe Rogan's doing cold plunges, and then like I was like, oh, there's got to be a link. It has to be a link, because it can't be. You throw enough shit at a wall, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
And if the ice bath was the thing for me that got me through that bit, then cool. I don't know what it was that got me through it, but I now just do all of those things and just think, if I take one of those out, what if it all falls apart? It's like Jenga. I don't want to pull that one in case the lot comes down. Yeah. And that's what it is with the ice bath now. So I'm just like...
I've actually read, obviously I don't know how reliable this is, but I've actually read that ice baths can be just as effective as methods of exercise.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. Well, it gets you that it's impossible to get out and go, oh, you can't. Because you're fucking freezing. So you're like, oh, and you are stood there, oh, right, let's go then. Oh, right. And you're not, you can't be like that, because it isn't what your body wants to do. It's people say it forces your body into shock. That's why it's called plunge shock therapy or whatever. I don't do it for that extent. Like when I got in December, the coldest I got in, it was -5 outside. It was 5 a.m. We were off to Budapest on our Christmas works do. And in the group chat, Dave put in there, I assume you're not getting in the ice bath this morning. And do you know what? I probably wasn't going to, because I had a flight at 7 a.m. and we were leaving from Stony at 5 a.m. Because he said that, I was like, sod him, I'm now getting in to prove a point. So I've gone downstairs and it was -5 outside and it was -1 in the water. And I was like, I'm just doing this to prove a point now. But I did it. I was in there for 5 minutes and that wasn't fun. And it was the first time I thought I didn't enjoy that one. Yeah. However, you couldn't half tell the difference between the 5 of us sat there on the plane. At 7 a.m, everyone sat there with their coffees. And I'm like, Budapest then, man. I've been looking at it earlier on the website. Have you seen this place here? And I realised it was the same feeling it gave me as if I'd done a couple of keys. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, this is the closest I've felt to that feeling. And it was natural. I was just hyper and happy. I wasn't I wasn't in my own head. It gets you out of your own head. You have to do it. So
no, I should try it.
It isn't a quick fix. It isn't first time you do it and I go, wow, that's great. And it isn't like riding a bike. When you don't do it for a week and then get back in, you're like, fuck me, this is difficult. It isn't like, I can get back in now. I did 10 days without getting in for no real logical reason other than laziness. It slipped back in briefly and then I got back in. I was like, oh my God, this was as difficult as it was the first time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Would you compare it to like meditation?
So I tried meditation briefly, very briefly, and it's something that I will go back to. And I think my problem with meditation was always that I can't shut down very well. When you say like you're sometimes quite happy to be in your own thoughts and you can kind of just, I get lost there a little bit, and there's a lot going on. I'm not being that guy on TikTok that says, oh, well, I think I've got ADHD, but I've never been tested. But if I was at school now, I would have been riddled with it. They would have like just said, this kid's got something, because I was like this since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I feel that I just don't shut down. And if I do, something will just go, microwave. Don't forget the microwave needs cleaning. Oh, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, no, hang on. Let's go back. I can't do that. Whereas the ice bath, I don't actually think about anything while I'm in there. I just go, oh, it's a yes.
Interesting.
Yes. It gives me, I don't do that for 5 minutes now because I don't find it as cold anymore because your body does get used to it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I just have, it's 10 minutes where I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I need those 10 minutes.
Like a fag break.
It's exactly that. That is the best thing I've heard it to be described as. It's a fag break.
Yeah.
It literally is. I literally get in there, and it sounds bad, but like it's also 10 minutes out of the house, even though it's in the garden, where I'm not dad, I'm not babe, I'm just me in an ice bath.
You are an individual.
I'm just me. And there's no one, and my missus has never even poked her head out once and gone, I really need you, because she knows it's my thing. So she won't even, my son stands at the back door and I can see him sometimes. And I'm like, I should get out in a minute because he obviously, and he'll stand at the back door and wait for me. And then when I come in, his arms are up. I'm like, I can't really pick you up because I'm cold. But it's just 10 minutes away from the stress of life. Life is stressful.
Always.
Life is very stressful.
No matter what you do.
Yeah. Even if life's great, and like my life on paper and in reality is great.
Yeah.
However, there are still stressful things. And if I can find anything that takes that stress away for just 10 minutes, then do it.
Yeah.
Whether that be meditation, whether that be ice baths, whether it be a fag break.
Yeah.
You need them, whatever they are, whatever your vice. You can't take all vices away.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like me who had so many. I can't get rid of them all. I vape more than I've ever vaped, but I'm okay with that for now.
Yeah, I love my vape.
I'll assess that.
I'm not promoting it, but I love it.
But they are also available on www.
That's what I should do. Just create my own brand.
Yeah.
But no, I do really relate to when you were saying you kind of have your break, your 10-minute. Like for me, when it comes to finding something that helped me calm down, I call it a train track mind.
Okay.
So like when a train track, you pull a lever and it changes junction, whereas mine is like layered on top. So it's like everything's coming at once, right? There's no organisation.
Yeah.
And for me, the only thing, like after I've meditated, it made me feel like I was having a panic attack.
Okay.
I feel
Took
like
you out of your comfort zone instead of putting you in it.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I've done therapy, but my problem is that the only thing I am diagnosed with, right, I think I've got a million things, but the only thing I'm diagnosed with is OCD. Yeah. So, and I was diagnosed very young. So it's very similar to like ADHD traits, but basically I get obsessive. Yeah. Hence the addictive personality. Yeah. So it starts with people, it starts with habits, it starts with starting something. And unless I become passionate, that obsession tends to die out after a while. Okay, yeah. Whereas because I've become passionate of certain things, they've stuck around. So when I'm really struggling mentally, I went through something last year. I went through a medical procedure and I started painting. Okay. Have a little look at that little trolley there. Ooh. Yeah. So that is my thing. Yeah. I have never been artistic. I have never been very creative. When I was a child, I liked building shit and breaking it. Like I was very, it's going to sound sexist in these days, but I was very masculine as a child. Yeah. Like I liked masculine activities. Yeah.
Boisterous.
Yes.
Yeah. More. So, you like chaos more than.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I like building big things and smashing them up or setting things on fire. And my mum goes, "Why has that been set on fire?" And I'm like, "I like fire."
Funny, isn't it? Why wasn't it set on fire?
I've done some real bad things actually. When I was like 14 or 13, I had a paper round, and after, like, this is around the time I started smoking cannabis, so I was like, oh, this is boring. So I used to walk to a field in Wolverton Mill and set them all on fire. Nice. So that's the trait I picked up from my childhood and kept it. And
just kept it, yeah.
Yeah. So now it's candles.
Candles, yeah, that's safer than fields.
Safe confined areas. So yeah, I now paint, and now I have plants, which
Yeah.
I used to always think, who does that?
Right, yeah.
Like an old woman.
Mhm.
And now I think it kind of stemmed from grief and loss,
Mhm.
because I have dealt with a lot of trauma in my life, like my upbringing and things I've gone through. I've just, because of the OCD, I really struggle to deal with things. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not saying it's worse or better than anybody else's. It's just, for me individually, I struggle to communicate those things. Well, I have struggled because I've never known how to deal with them in a healthy way. I wasn't shown an example. So when it come to me being the age I am now, going through therapy, and COVID was probably the pinnacle moment where I became so obsessed with my mental health that I gave myself therapy without realising.
Yeah.
So I researched so deep, you know, it starts with TikTok telling you you're autistic, you're ADHD, you're bipolar.
You thought you was autistic, you found out you were artistic.
Yeah, literally. So
and dyslexic at the same time.
I am actually dyslexic too.
Oh, yeah, actually.
So it started with the internet telling me there's something wrong with me. And I already knew, like, I have felt this is going to sound really egotistical, but I've gone my whole life thinking no one gets me. Like,
I'm so special.
Yeah, there's something in my head that makes me different.
I'm a real one-off. Yeah. I've lived in that life for a long time, yeah.
So I used to always think there was something, and the more I struggled with my mental health and my sense of self and identity, I started realising, okay, I'm not different in a positive way. I'm different probably based on my upbringing, my environment, like all these things.
That's interesting. So you saw it as a trauma reason that made you feel that way, not that originally you thought it was a positive thing. As in, I'm just so much not better, but like I offer more, and then you realise that maybe it was actually like a coping mechanism. Or else.
Definitely. And I've always been someone that people naturally feel comfortable to share things with me that they don't tell other people, and I feel like I don't know whether that's an aura I emit or if that's...
I'd say it is. Like in general, I think you do. That is how you come across.
I just think I'm also just not very judgmental.
I think that's the biggest part. I think people are more open to opening if they feel that it isn't going to be judged. Like you're not going to say it to a random dude in the street going, "I've had a bad day today," because he might not be the right guy to do it to. Because he'll be like, "Well, I don't
really care."
Yeah. Whereas you can tell with someone that, but it also then can become too far the other way, because then you become a punching bag for other people's lives. Yeah. And I feel that I was very much like that at times. And I was like, look, anyone needs to talk to me, even though my life was a mess. They were like opening up to me. I'm thinking, I'm not the guy, man. Yeah. Because I'm now taking this home. And I'm like, oh, this guy at work today told me that his missus has left him. And I was taking it home myself. And I realised that I needed to sort myself out before I let other people do it. 100%. Yeah.
So this was something I had really deep conversations with my therapist with, and she said to me that you would rather take on everyone else's problems instead of focus on your own. Yeah. Because when I went through this whole deep dive on socials, online articles, I was reading like therapists' autobiographies and and then I couldn't afford therapy before I started therapy. Yeah. And I took on a course. I thought, well, if I can't pay for it, I'm just going to learn what they're going to do for me. So I learned how to do CBT therapy. I didn't finish it, but I learned enough to become self-aware of my own issues. Yeah,
to help yourself. Yeah.
So I become so self-aware of myself, and I understood my behaviour. I understood my trauma better. I understood things that I needed to process, things that I still process now. I'm a big believer on you do it when you're ready. Yeah. But I learned so much about myself that when I came to my therapist and I said, okay, so I've got OCD. I've always had it. That's the one thing I struggle the most with. I have borderline personality disorder. So basically, I'm multiple different people a day. Yeah. And I'm fine with that, but I kind of want to reduce the symptoms because you can't quite get rid of it. Like some people have, but it's usually when you're going through a tough time, it kind of comes back. Yeah, it exacerbates the issue. Yeah, and I have severe health anxiety. Like, I'm a massive hypochondriac. Okay. So I will get a heart palpitation and I'll think I'm having a heart attack.
Game over.
Yeah. And it started with quitting smoking weed, becoming an alcoholic, and then I basically became so obsessed with my health that's kind of where the health anxiety
other way. Yeah. And from not giving a shit to giving too much shit.
Yeah, and I've always had I've got a couple health things. I've got quite bad asthma, eczema and allergies. So they're things I've lived with my whole life. Nothing of those things have ever changed. My eczema improved, but everything else kind of the same. So when those things I started getting new symptoms, having panic attacks, that's what kickstarted the health anxiety. Because then I'm calling up doctors and having heart monitors attached to my chest for 24 hours and all this stuff. And it was all in my head. And I would say to my therapist, it's all in my head. Like, I know, help me get it out. And she's gone, well, you're so self-aware. You've taken my job away. That's probably
even tougher though, right?
Yeah.
Because you're aware of it and you're like, why am I doing it?
Yeah, that's what... So I remember changing therapists. I spent over a year with her.
She's wrong.
Because you can use this app called BetterHelp, which is a therapy, basically FaceTime. You can do it however you want, but I chose the FaceTime option. And it's kind of a cost-effective way, affordable way to get therapy based on your earnings. And also, you can change your therapist at any time. They try and help you, like, match you up to someone.
I've seen about it, so that's a really good concept.
It's really, really good.
Because there is nothing worse if you went in something and went, the person's not right, or I don't feel, there's nothing wrong with the person, but it doesn't feel right to me, or there's no links. Like, I had it when I first went years and years ago to an AA meeting. I sat down and spoke to the guy and went through all the numbers. Like, they wanted to know the numbers. Like, right, what's your intake? And then I did it with the drugs, and I told him, oh, not too much then. And I was like, not what? Like, just like diminishing my, like, I've got a real problem here. And I never went back. I never went back. And 8 years later, it took me to get sober because I didn't like how that went. It was with the FaceTime option. Like, I like that.
And you can literally book it, like, probably less than a week, but I used to do it a week in advance. I'd be like, right, I'm booking therapy next week.
That's good.
And it's like I kind of phased it out, and then I brought it back when I lost my friend, because I truthfully thought I was experiencing similar symptoms as to what I heard that he passed away from. Yeah. So he passed away from having a cardiac arrest. Yeah. Through drinking and all these other lifestyle influences. Yeah. And so I kind of, my body starts reacting that way, and I thought, I'm going to die if I don't do something. Yeah. So then I went to therapy again, and she said, this is normal. Like, this is grief. This is what grief does when it smacks you in the face, and you're not just in shock, you're dealing with it right now. So you go through all these stages. They say there's like 7 stages of grief, I think. Yeah. And with the anxiety, like the health related anxiety, she basically helped me with that. And then the more we would develop after I wanted to talk about the other things in my life, like, let's revisit these things where I know everything about myself. I'm self-aware. I want to get better. And she went, well, you've done the work. Mm-hmm. And I've gone, okay, so you're not going to tell me what to do now? Like, these are my problems. And she's gone, well, that's not what a therapist does. She goes, it sounds like you're looking for a parent. And I'm like, all right, that's another thing I'm now self-aware of. Yeah. What now?
Now what? You've left me in the same position as when I started. Yeah, I get that.
So I would 100% recommend it to anybody that struggles to speak or struggles to learn about themselves or wants to get a different perspective of themselves.
I think that's what the biggest part is there, what you say. I think it's a fresh set of eyes. Because when it's yourself, you believe you know everything about yourself naturally because it's yourself. Who knows more about me than me? Yeah. But it's not until someone kind of points it out sometimes from the outside. But someone said it to me recently, said something, I'm like, oh yeah, I never really thought about it that way. And that's bang on why I do what I did. Like, and I'm like, and that was a mate. Mm-hmm. That wasn't a therapist who is specifically supposed to find those things. Mm-hmm. A friend noticed it more. So yeah, a fresh set of eyes is massive in those occasions, in those situations.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's some of my mental health story. I can't remember what I was going to say now. It's because I started looking at my board. Oh, I also saw recently that you'd wrote a song.
Yeah, this was a thing that I did when I was at my worst. I used to write songs and poems at 3-4 in the morning off of one's nut, shall we say. It was my go-to of, like, because I had all these feelings in my head that were like just buzzing around due to the chaos that I was causing to myself. And most of the time I'd read them back after the next day and be like, that's so bad, none of it makes sense, the logic's not there's no rhyming, none of it makes whatever. But I love music. I've always been into music. A lot of my friends are in bands and I grew up around it. My uncle was the MD at Marshall's, so I had that. My other uncle was built piano, so I've always been around music. I just never did anything with it. And then I just realised that I loved writing. it's essentially therapy. Like writing, like you were saying there, I'd write something down and I didn't know I felt that until I'd wrote it. And then I am not a musician. I play the guitar, I can play the piano, but I'm not a musician. I don't do anything with it. But I just realised that when I write stuff, like, it makes me feel better about how I felt in that situation.
Yeah.
And that one that I posted not too long ago, so there's a couple that I wrote those years ago, and I've only just refound them. I'm unpacking everything with why I am the way I am, why I am the way I was, giving my own self therapy as well. And a lot of it, I'm like, I wonder if I read those back, if they still make sense now. And I can see the dates, so I know where I was at. I can work out where I was in my life at that point. And I'm like, this was a bad time. Let's read that. And it now means something completely different to what I originally wrote. It was about a physical person at the time. And now I listen to it and I'm like, no, I don't see it about that at all. I actually see it about me asking for help. Like, it's weird. It's really weird how...
I don't think it's weird.
Yeah, no, maybe it's not. It's just how
I think it's also because I'm surrounded by music.
Yeah.
So I meet so many songwriters, singers.
Yeah.
My partner's a music producer.
Yeah.
And it is so normal in the world I live in.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really nice that you can express yourself through it, because, you know, people do this for a living.
Yeah.
And sometimes people write things and they don't have meaning, but when people do, you know, there's a story, there's details that you can't just make to make a hit, basically.
Yeah, exactly that.
I think it's a very beautiful way to express how you feel. And like, for me, if I wanted to do something like that, I'm not very good at making music or writing lyrics. I just feel music as a therapy. It's like a sensation. It's like a drug to me.
Yeah, you're an intaker, not an outputter. In that sense. I get that.
And when it comes to, if I was to try and relate to what you are doing, I write a diary sometimes. Yeah. But I only badmouth in my diary. I never write, I'm having a good day. It's only when I'm like, my boyfriend's pissed me off. I'm gonna slate it in my diary today.
It's not a positive diary. It's more like, I need to get that off my chest
it's
and
like
get
a burn
it out.
book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can't sit with us. Yeah, I know. I completely get that, because I realised that when I look back at all of the stuff I'd wrote, and I was like, I am moody, man. None of this is nice. It's all really sad. It's all really depressed. And I realised I only ever wrote when I was in a bad place.
Yeah.
And I found that quite sad, because when I listen to it back now, when I write it back and I read it back, and I'm like, I must have been, and I'll look at the date and I'm like, I know exactly when it's from. I read a poem that I wrote after, so me and my partner, Lucianne, we were together 3 years, broke up for 3 years, back together for the last 2.5, and have a 16-month-old son. In the 3 years that we were apart, we both went our own ways and did our own things, and then obviously got back together. But I wrote a poem after we broke up, and I found it last week, and I went, oh my God. And I'm sat with her on the sofa and I went, your poem? She was like, my what? I was like, I wrote this poem about you when we broke up. She was like, can I hear it? I was like, I need to read it myself first.
Yeah, give me a minute.
And it is just a hammering. But it's not, but it was
it was your hurt that you're projecting.
It was my hurt. Yeah. And I blame myself for 75% of the breakup originally. I was chaos. I wasn't a person to be around. It was my fault. She had her fault, same as everyone does, but I take most of the blame for that. Yeah. But when I read it back, you wouldn't think that. Like, you'd think that she's a scumbag. Like, clearly what I've wrote, but it wasn't for anyone. It was never. I've never even posted it anywhere. It doesn't exist other than on my phone, and it never will exist anywhere other than that. I could read it out loud and it's okay, but like with her, when I read it to her, she was like, "It's actually very good, like what you've done with it." But it's quite weird that you felt that way at the time. I was like, I don't think I did feel that way. It was an exacerbated version of how I felt. Yeah. Like, fuck you. Even though it was my fault. It was like a
creative way to project
my anger and my hurt towards losing a 3-year relationship and feeling like I had to start all over again. Yeah. Because that's the problem when anyone breaks up with anyone. There's more the fear of, fuck, I'm back at square one. Yeah. And then they end up still trying to force it. I'd rather be with someone than no one. It's that feeling. Whereas like we did that so many times, and it took 3 years apart to realise that we were right, just complete wrong time. Yeah.
And you needed to be happy within yourself.
100%. And I certainly wasn't. Throughout most of it, she wanted this to settle down and wanted to do this. Oh, should we start putting money away and start maybe looking at getting a place together? Yeah, sure. All right then. Straight down the boozer. No, I don't want to do that. But that wasn't where I was. Yeah. Whereas it was where I was 4 years later, like 3 years later, once we'd broken up and had our own lives, and I knew that I needed consistency, and I knew that that was something that we offered to each other. So the writing side of it now, I find it quite weird because one of my best friends, who is about, I think he must be about coming up to a year and a half sober. He had to do rehab and everything.
Yeah.
But he's done very well with it, and he was my benchmark of seeing how well he's done. He was my loose cannon mate that we were just off the rails together.
Yeah.
And
the one that you could count on when you wanted to go out.
100%. The saddest story that's funny that we laugh at now is when I went sober and I went round to his and we sat down. He made us a baguette of some sort. We'd known each other for 15 years, and I sat there and ate, and he goes, "Do you know I've never seen you eat?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "It wasn't our friendship." I said, "No, of course it wasn't. Like, you called me, where are you? I'm at mine. Should I come round?" And we get on the beers, and then we get on the other stuff, and it was chaos.
Wow.
He goes, "I've never seen you chew other than the inside of your mouth." And I was like, "Oh my God." And it made me well up. I was like, we have been friends for 15 years. He's in my top 5 friends of all time, but we'd never sat down and had a meal. We'd never spoke about anything other than being off of our nut. It was like, that's quite sad, that, because it made you realise that we were just two liabilities using each other as, if I'm a loser, I need a loser with me. And now we realise that we're not that, and we actually are still friends.
Validate each other.
Yeah. I don't want to go down in this ship on my own, so come with me, sort of thing. That's how it was. Whereas now, both sober, I'm coming up to a year, he's 15, 16 months. And it's like, I saw him yesterday in the high street. I saw his van and I was like, "Hello, mate." He's like, "Hello, mate." And you'd think we were both on it, because he was like, "Hello, boy, how are we? How's life? Yeah, great." Like, and he's just this loud, incredible character. And I was like, neither of us ever needed any of that to be the way we are. We are that anyway.
Yeah.
But it's the liar in you tells you that. And I say, he is a musician. And I said to him, like, "How's the music going?" He went, "It's really hard to write now." Because I wrote from a dark place all the time, because I was always in a dark place.
Yeah.
And he goes, "How do I write a song now? What do I say? My daughter looks stunning today." Like, that isn't what I wrote about. My daughter's beautiful. My son's great. Because it wasn't that. It was the dark of the depth of the world. It was all this angsty, stressful, hurt music. And he goes, "Now I don't feel that way. So my writing's changed."
Yeah.
So I have to go back to my old feelings when I write stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's tough. Because I haven't wrote anything recently other than what was the old stuff, and I've just tweaked it. So I've thought that doesn't need to be in there now, because I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
And I say it is an outlet. It is 100% an outlet.
Yeah. And also, like, would you ever go further with the music, or do you like it more as like just a personal thing?
I don't know. I've only ever done one open mic. And that was cool. Years ago, and I'd only been playing the guitar 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And I told my friend about it, the one I was on about, the musician, and he went, "You're doing what?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm ready." He went, "Oh, you're definitely not." Like,
at least he was honest.
He goes, "Guitar wise, you can play 3 chords." I was like, "That's all I need, man." Like, but I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I did it, and it went okay. Yeah. It'd be interesting to do it now, because I listened to it back. There is a video of it, and the rattle and shake in my voice because I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Is also the fact I'm 4 beers deep as well at the time doesn't help.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to do it now, and I think maybe I have a different kind of view on it. I'm not a singer. I like to write.
Yeah.
And I like to play the guitar, and it is an outlet for me. So I'd love to do it in that sense.
Maybe you're a songwriter.
Yeah, maybe that's my thing. Maybe that's what I do. And I say I've got friends in bands, so I've not spitballed ideas since being sober.
Yeah.
It was always a 3 a.m. listen to this.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit at 3 a.m. No one's listening to it. You're off your nuts. Like,
they're not listening.
They're not. They're in the kitchen. They're existing. They're not really taking it in. So it'd be interesting to maybe look at it now with sober eyes.
Oh yeah. But, I mean, there's so many ways you can do things with music. Like if you was to write demos, for example, songwrite, produce, play instruments, they're all areas where in the industry there are people for each role.
Exactly that.
And you know, some people do loads. Like Alex is a producer, so he can work with like vocalists, he can songwrite, he can play instruments and do it all through a computer. Like he can do quite a lot of those things where some people just sing, some people just write, some people do both.
Specific, that's their thing.
So there's so many things you can do with it if you ever wanted to go down that route.
Definitely. It's something that I found myself. I didn't pick up the guitar for the first 6 months of sobriety.
Yeah.
Wasn't even an afterthought. It was in the corner of the room. I see it every day. My TV's there, my guitar's there, and I didn't even look at it for 6 months. And now I find myself picking it up at least once a day. My son's got this infatuation with it where you get, it's a weird one with when they're at that age, because there's words they understand mama, they understand dada, they understand milk. Guitar was the first one that I don't know why I went, do you want to go get the guitar? And he walked over to it, and I was like, what the fuck? That's coincidental, because there's no way he understands what guitar is, because I've never said it that much.
Yeah.
And I've realised he does understand it. Like, so when I say guitar, my missus overthought one once. She said, should we put on some Oasis? And he walked over to the guitar. He's a genius. No, he's not. No, he's fucking not. He's not. As if he went, yeah, Noel Gallagher's the guitarist and Liam's the singer. Like, no, he's 16 months old. He did not understand that Oasis is linked to the guitar. It was coincidental. But I feel like he loves music, and it's given me that kick up the arse. My sister-in-law, so my partner's sister, she is a music teacher. She's grade 8 pianist and flute, so she teaches music at school. So he's going to be around it. Like, he's already got a full-size keyboard. Or mum bought him. Like,
Love that.
Yeah, so we're trying to, like, that will be not pushed, but he seems to have an interest in it. It's now given me that kind of like second wind with music again.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, he loves it. If I'm sat playing a guitar, he's just like, Daddy's on the guitar. He'll come over and he now understands that what dong 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 and ling are two different things. Like, you can't. He understands this is different than that, strumming and picking. Like, and I'm like, that's mad. Like,
do you kind of feel like you kind of relive a young version of yourself because
100%.
you're exploring your creativity again?
100%. Yeah. I feel like I've gone. As I said earlier, I've definitely gone back and I'm trying to make up for lost time in every sense. Like, I feel like there's a good 6-year period that I can write off as autopilot.
Yeah.
Where I actually did nothing. There is nothing of show. There's nothing that I can say, well, at least I came out of it with that. A couple of tattoos.
Yeah.
That's all I've got left from those 6 years, really. And a lot of hurt and a lot of heartache and a lot of friendships that I've lost. So there was a big part of that I look at as wasted time. So I feel like now I'm trying to make up for that. And again, like I said earlier, throwing shit at a wall, hoping something sticks. I'm like, golf, football, music, get my hair done, get a new tattoo. Like, it's one of them. Let's find what my thing is. Yeah, like, let's find out what I can do to make myself feel like correct. And it is working. And I feel like the music has certainly been a thing that has got me going with that. Definitely.
No, that's
I have
good.
a new lease of life for that, for sure.
No, I do think you're very, very creative.
Yeah.
I always thought you might go into comedy.
So it was something that I wanted to, but my problem was twice I attempted it. I did an open mic comedy night. It wasn't a comedy night. It was just an open mic.
Right.
So already the room's not on your side.
Oh, yeah, because they're there for musicians.
They're there for musician and spoken word poetry. And I rock up and go, oi. And I did the typical, because it was the wrong time in my life. I was 7 beers deep and I'd done 2 lines in the toilet before I did it.
So you misread the room a bit?
Completely misread the room. I misread myself, let alone the room. Like I didn't know what on earth. And it wasn't, I don't know what I was trying to. I made the mistake of thinking, because I'm known as funny, it's that simple to just do a 20-minute and listen to me and you'll laugh. It has to be more structured. And there was no structure to it. I was just chatting bollocks and telling stories about my family that they don't know who the hell I'm on about. I was just going, my dad once said this. How funny is that? Like, what? It was so... It was a definition of an open mic. There was no notes on my phone.
Yeah.
People are going up with these notes. I just rocked up and thought, I can talk for 20 minutes and you'll laugh at me.
Yeah.
And that was the wrong way to do it. And the only thing that's changed it recently, and my best friend, the one that I was best man at his wedding... he is my biggest cheerleader, but is also my biggest critic in a good way.
Yeah.
He's one of the big reasons why I am where I am now with sobriety. I don't know why he stuck by me, because he is the definition of head screwed on fella. Chaos when he was younger, but head screwed on, very clever.
Up, mature.
He grew up and matured way before I did.
Yeah.
7-8 years before I did. So he had every right to at any point just do one and think, why am I still hanging around with this loser? Because I was a loser at times. But he, obviously me being his best man, I did the best man speech and it went down an absolute treat in the room.
Didn't that do really well on socials.
It's got
I
80,
watched
I
it.
think about 85,000 views
Viral.
on TikTok, and my most before that was 4,000 on a sobriety video.
I watched it all the way through, and I found it really funny.
Yeah,
I think it was really good because it was very
Well, it
like
went-
personal. But
yeah,
this is kind of the reason why I'm curious about whether you'd go into comedy, because I do
Yeah.
think you are a bit of a natural.
I didn't know. I've always. It sounds. You have to say it, how you feel. I know I'm funny. I know that it's a trait that I would class myself as. Like,
Yeah.
I can talk serious like this, and I can be very serious. But I know that my main personality trait. The first thing, if someone said, "What's Lou like?" Oh, he's a funny guy. Like, that doesn't mean that you're hilarious. Doesn't mean you're a comedian. It doesn't mean anything like that. But it's a base for sure. And it wasn't until the speech that I did, because I did it sober as well. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be scary. I watched it back myself on numerous occasions to see what I would tweak if I had it again. And I'm like, my timing's really good there. And I like that about it. Like, I like the fact that I'm like, oh, it actually is quite comical. And I know it's very personable to the group,
Yeah.
but there's also bits that are just quite funny. And I'm like, yeah, I feel that there is something there. And the reason I know that there is was my best mate messaged me about 3 weeks after the wedding. So it wasn't even like it was just a straight after, well done, mate. He messaged and he said, I just want to say, rewatching your speech now, the footage that we've got, because they've got the full shebang.
Yeah.
He said, it's brilliant. He said, and it's very, very good. And he said, your writing's very good. What you've said, your timing was great. He said, I know you tweaked an idea before about doing comedy. I'll be honest, it wasn't for you. He was there for both things because I was pissed up.
Yeah.
And just got up and got the mic and cracked on. And he said, you were not where you needed to be in life, and it wasn't great because you were just winging it. He said, the moment you had structure, like my speech, he said, I genuinely think there could be something there.
I do as well.
And he said, and I'd push it. He said, I really think you should. When he said that, I was like, oh, this guy is the biggest critic. Like, do you know what I mean? It's Tenerife. He's been 11 Tenerife. Like, he will tell he's done it better. He knows it all. Like, and he does know it all because he's so researched.
Yeah.
And I know me and him are the same comedy values when it comes to who the best comedian is of all time. The moment we talk about people and they go, it's got to be Peter Kay. We're like, guy's a fucking moron. Peter Kay's incredible. He's not the greatest of all time. The guy's a good comedian, man.
Who's your favourite comedian?
My favourite's Ricky Gervais.
Same.
But he's not the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time is Dave Chappelle. But my favourite is Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, my favourite's Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, Bill Burr's up there as well, as when it comes
Alex
to
loves Bill Burr.
Genius. He knows he can do it all. But
I wasn't
my
a
favourite
fan
is
of his
Gervais.
recent special though.
Who
On
Bill
Netflix.
Burr's?
Have
Bill
you seen
Burr's.
it?
Yeah, I would have seen it. Yeah, it's not his best. Oh, the one at the Red Rock.
I don't know what it's
The
called.
one at the Red Rock's incredible, where he's outside in this weird, like...
I don't
it's a
think
bit
he
of a
was
weird one.
outside. I just
don't know if I've
saw.
seen the
I remember
version.
Alex was really excited that it came on Netflix, and I watched
Oh, I have seen it. He has like his mates with him and things like that. Bill, but I know the one you're on about.
I
He
just
has a few
thought
others.
I wasn't engaged enough. I just thought
Yeah.
this is not engaging me, so
But then
I wasn't a fan. But I like his other stuff.
Yeah, but I felt the same about Gervais.
Really?
I went to see the most recent one.
Yeah, I
and
saw
it was
it.
incredible when I was there for it. It was great. And when I watched it back on Christmas Day, because it came out on Christmas Day,
Yeah,
I
it was so
like,
different.
Ooh, it's good, but it got a lot of bad rap for it saying it's his worst work. I love all of Gervais, but he is my comedy hero.
Yeah.
Because I love the awkwardness of the early stuff like The Office extras and
Yeah.
Derek. I think
love
Derek is
Derek.
incredible. Derek for me is one of his strongest pieces of work.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't play the joke role. It's Kev that's the joke role, David Earl's character, who is, in my eyes, one of the greatest characters ever wrote for television.
Yeah.
He's just a complete scumbag.
Yeah.
And you look at him and go, I like that. I don't know why. Like, you're not nice and you're not a good person, but I like you. Like, and that's what he has the ability to do. And I think his comedy it's changed a lot over the years because of he is not one of us anymore. He was though. That's why people like him. He was his big break on not the 10 o'clock news. He was 36, so he has lived in a 1-bed flat.
Yeah.
He has pissed in the sink because he couldn't be asked to go to the toilet. That's true stories that he's done.
Yeah.
You can listen to him and go, like Mickey Flanagan, and go, oh, you are just one of us, or were. You ain't now, like, but you were. Like, and I think that's why they become a lot more relatable when they can tug on the heartstrings with sad comedy as well, like Afterlife and things like that.
Oh, I really liked Afterlife. I mean, it's very different to some of his work, but I think it's a very, very good series.
Well, it gets you, doesn't it? Regardless, whether it makes you feel one way or the other. It's
kind of like maturing with different issues to what you
thought you would have.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly that. Yeah, and especially if you haven't even been through it, like you don't necessarily have to have gone through those things, but you can feel, oh my god, someone has, or someone you know has.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he's very clever with that. Same with Derek, where he tugs on the fact that I don't have an autistic member of the family, but Derek clearly is.
Yeah.
But he's so nice because he takes life as what it should be.
Yeah.
And that's what it's the whole be kind stuff. That's what Derek was all about.
Yeah.
It's like, just be nice like he is. Like, don't take things too seriously. Don't get upset about things. Yeah, I think his stuff will stand the test of time. The Office, for me, is still the greatest series ever wrote. Everyone goes on about the American one. That's also as good, but there's 9 series of that. There's only 12 episodes of the UK one. So that is comedy royalty.
Yeah.
And his stand-up stuff is just brilliant because he doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Like he said it, I don't care. Like, guy's a multi-millionaire, doesn't care about it. But yeah, it's something that I'm part of a group. I've started dipping my toe, shall we say. I'm part of a group on Facebook called Southeast UK stand-up comedy thing. I'm just trying to see what it's all about because I don't know how to do it, because everyone's like, oh, just go do an open mic. People aren't there for that. Like, they're there for a singer. They want a guy. It's not the room.
It's
like,
the London open mics you want to go to.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I've been said.
There is a place I found, because whenever I get Alex a birthday or Christmas present, I basically get us a comedy night, because he has everything he wants. Like, he buys it there and then, because it's usually music related.
Yeah.
So I got us tickets to Ricky Gervais the first year, and I thought, well, comedy's really expensive, but people tend to, it's a very private kind of community. But it's so popular. So I found there are multiple comedy clubs in London. So just a train away. And I think there's one in Northampton, but the one I went to, London, it's called The Top Secret Comedy Club.
I've heard of this.
You can pay a monthly membership, or the tickets are either £1 or 20 quid at max.
Nice.
They are cheap. If you book like the 8 or 8:30 p.m. slot, you're like in a very small, crowded, like there's a lot of people in there. You get professionals, amateurs, sometimes a surprise guest if it's a celeb. So this is where all of the famous comedians and upcoming comedians go to practice their material.
Practice, hone their craft and such.
So only the comedy club are allowed to film. No one else is allowed to. A lot of people there have a drink. I obviously don't. You can bring food in. You can bring your own stuff in. There's literally a Tesco around the corner you can walk to. So I just grabbed all my stuff, like grab loads of snacks and juices or whatever. And you just sit in you pick your seat. You can't book a seat. You basically get there.
Just get in and first come, first served.
And you're there for about 2.5 hours.
I like that.
And
that
it's a really fulfilling night. You feel like you've had a whole night out because you've just laughed so much.
And that's the thing with comedy in general. Like, there's nothing like it. Like, I love football. Football was my life growing up. I love music. Music was my life. If I find myself in any point of struggle, lockdown, I lived on my own in a 1-bed flat. I watched The Office repeatedly.
Literally,
over and over again.
I feel like we've lived the same life.
But I was just like, I need to laugh because I am feeling so bad in my life. If I can just take myself away from it, it's a release. And it's a little bit tunnel vision because you're not dealing with your real issues, but I don't care. So I can get through a day of it. And like, I want to do, I always like, for the first time, the way I know that there's, with me, with anything, I start something without realizing I'm doing it. And then suddenly it starts to become a little bit of a voice in the back of the head. Then it starts ticking and then it becomes more and more. I started writing notes. I can tell by my notes. If you ever read through my notes on my phone, you can tell where I'm at in my life based on the date. With the sobriety stuff, it was all about that. There was weight loss stuff in there. There was food stuff. And now that's all disappeared. I've started writing joke ideas in my notes. And when I did it a couple of days ago, I was like, oh, it means that I think there's something there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't write them in there because it'd be pointless. Who am I going to tell it to? It's not a joke that I can go, what do you think of this joke? Because it doesn't work. It's the way I'd have to do it. And it'd have to be in a small set of some sort. So there's definitely like an idea there. But I'm also aware that you always have that nagging thought in your head of what if it doesn't work. But then if it doesn't work, you're no further back from where you are now, which is nowhere.
So
I've not done anything with it. So
it would have been a fun experience to try.
100%.
You're either going to enjoy it, and even if, say for instance, a joke bombs, that joke may do really well in a different crowd. A lot of people go to Ireland to test out jokes because they are sometimes a tough crowd, but also the best crowd.
If it's good, it's good, and I'll tell you, but it happened even with the speech, the best man speech. The joke that got the biggest laugh wasn't the one that I thought was that funny. And that's the maddest part about it. It was the bit where I said, I've lost my speech, so I had to Google best man speech of all time. Hopefully this works. Elocuente de los Spanish. Fuck. That I don't think that was that funny. I just thought it was quite. But everyone pissed themselves, and I was like, oh, and I had to wait for them to stop laughing. I was like, that was just a throwaway joke. Whereas the ones that I thought were very good got a laugh, but I was like, oh, that was the one that I thought was the killer. Like,
yeah.
And it was that they were easy jokes, like the Cornwall jokes. Their family being from Cornwall, like. You're easily going to mention Seven Fingers playing a guitar. It's a simple joke, but it's all been done. So I feel like if you're going to do it, I've seen so many comedians. It's all I follow on Instagram and Facebook, and you watch it and you're like, I critique constantly in my head as if I've done it, but I think it's different when you're in the position, because I'll hear something like, oh, he could have run with that. He could have run with that. There was a joke there and he missed it. And I'm thinking, says me. It's like the fat guy in a pub watching football going, he should have passed there. Like, well, all right then, Dave. All right,
you do it then.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah, I would have if it weren't for the knee up. But like, yeah, it's just like, yeah, I feel that I have to be aware of, like, it doesn't mean it's just going to be that easy. My mates think I'm funny because they have to. Like, do you know
if
what I mean?
If it makes you feel better, I think I'm hilarious, but not many other people do.
And that helps. Yeah, exactly.
So Alex is always saying to me, "You love laughing at your own jokes."
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
well,
but
I'm the funniest person I know.
I'm my own biggest fan as well. 100%. You have to be though. Like, I always say it to the missus a couple of weeks ago. She went, "When we get back tonight, shall we put on, like, I don't know, shall we watch something funny?" I was like, you've got funny at home. Like, I'm like the choc ice, you know, when they say, like, do you want ice cream? We've got it in the freezer. I'm the freezer. I'm there, like, sit down, babe. I'll do a couple of jokes. Yeah, I feel like my missus has a very, very different humour than me. She's very straight-laced in a good way, and she grounds me in that sense. If she giggles at something, I know I've done incredible. Like, and I mean, if she goes, "Oh, God's sake," I'm like, "Oh my God, that's a killer."
Yeah.
I'll write that one down. Like, if she's giggled, because normally she'll just be like, "Oh my God," she's a roller of the eyes when I do. But I do it for that reason. I find someone going, "Oh," funnier than a real belly laugh.
Yeah.
Because I want that awkwardness. Like, that's the Office side of it. I love the not too awkward, not like the baby reindeer stuff when it's just not. I watch that and I'm like, nah, not for you, mate. Like, you're lucky you wrote a good series, because comedy isn't the one. Like, but yeah, stuff like that. I look at it and think, yeah, there's something there. There's a base there, and I feel like I will regret not doing nothing with it. My dad, sorry, going off subject, but it's the same. My dad is the king of shoulda, woulda, coulda. I don't call him that to his face, but he'll hear this and it's true. He is, what could have happened? What if I would have done this? You didn't. Oh, but I could. You didn't, mate. You didn't. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. You did the same thing over and over again and got the same results. Like, yeah, but what could have happened? And I've always tried not to be that guy, and especially now I'm sober, I'm like, I'm not being that guy. Yeah. And I found myself recently sat there, keep telling myself, I need to do something with a comedy thing. I need to try it. I need to give it a go. And then a week goes by and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I'm shoulda, woulda, coulda in without realising it. And then before you know it, I'll be 40 going, I could have been if I give it a go, mate. I don't want my son to go, but you didn't. Yeah. Because I begrudge that. I could easily go, I did it, didn't work out, and it wasn't for me. But you do have that thing in your head, same with anything, whatever you do as a job, you'll look at it and go, there's people doing it that I think I'm better than. And that's the hardest part. You're watching like, I'm funnier than them. Like, doesn't mean it's going to work. Yeah,
and also that might not be your crowd. Like, that could be their crowd.
Exactly.
And you're just like, what about that was funny? Like, I sometimes see that in comedy. But I just still love the environment. I love going there. Like, I love watching it on social media. I follow a lot of people that aren't very popular as well.
I'm the same.
I love finding the people. I'm like, oh, they should be the ones, and they're the ones that are going through TV first to kind of have a foundation.
Well, I felt
career.
that way with Matt Rife. Like, I felt like I found him, but like, he wasn't the Matt Rife now that's got like millions of followers and essentially became famous through TikTok. He's the first. I'd go as far as saying he's the first comedian to be TikTok famous and become famous. Bearing in mind the guy is one of the most beautiful looking men I've ever seen, so that don't half out. But he's hilarious. He is brilliant. But he's found his thing.
Yeah, I think he found his audience.
Found his audience, jumped on it, and has run with it and done it incredibly. Whereas there's other people that I've watched and thought, that's crap. And I read the comments, absolutely brilliant. I'm thinking, was it? Yeah, it was to them. Yeah. Just because I didn't find it, I'm like, that doesn't mean that it isn't. There's music that I listen to and go, I just don't get it. But I'd never take it away from someone else that does. Yeah. My missus would listen to House on the way to a funeral, and I find it ridiculous. Like, put on some somber stuff. Like I
want to
judge
cry.
I want to cry.
I need to get my emotions out now.
Yeah, get Oasis on. Like I need to listen to Don't Go Away. Like I will judge how my mood is based on my music and what I'm listening to, and I can tell where my life is based on that. Whereas my missus is like, I've had such a bad day. And I'm like, have you? Like tell your music taste that. Like
I wouldn't know.
Stick on Celine. Like like it's strange, but you can tell a lot about that. Like, and the same with comedy. Like, if I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, right, just fucking get your go-to default, get The Office on.
Yeah, I think
on.
every time, I don't know if you get this, but me and Alex, every time we rewatch it, we go, oh, how have I missed that?
Yeah.
Like, I've watched this 50 times.
The bit that I've watched over and over again and still gets me as much as the first time, but I definitely didn't notice it the first 2 or 3 times, is when Gervais is doing the speak as if he's like a motivational speaker, and when the woman comes in and he's taking his top off and then he breathes in, and because he wants her to believe that he's skinnier than he is, and he goes, oh yeah. And it's the great. I noticed the higher, but never noticed that his belly was overhanging, and then he's just there. And now I can't help but it's the greatest comedy moment I've ever seen. It's the time, and you sit and think, have you thought about that? Because we've all done it.
Yeah,
I've done it at the bar.
It's relatable.
I'm stood there at the bar, and a good-looking bird walked in, and I give it the breathe in just in case. Bear in mind, I was 3 stone overweight. She's not looking, going, that's better. Yeah, that's better. that little bit has changed the whole game for me. What was I going to do? Just stay like that forever?
Yeah,
just constantly like, I went, yeah, really good, thanks. Like, it wouldn't work, but it's so relatable, and I think that's what comedy needs to be. Like, you've got to be able to look at it. If someone talks about, so my Porsche, right? I haven't got a Porsche. Move on. Like, it needs to be stuff that you can like understand. And I've done that. Lee Evans is the greatest of all time for that.
Oh yeah,
because
my mum's favourite is Lee Evans.
He's brilliant.
I know so much of his comedy just from growing up.
And everything he did, you're like, I know someone that does that. Of course you do. It's basic but done well.
Yeah.
Like, women take too long shopping. That's an easy joke, but he does it so well that you forget that the original joke is very basic. And I think that's what comedy's about. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It is good. I'm tempted. I will. You'll be the first to know. You'll be the first to know.
I'd love to come watch.
Yeah, 100%. I need to write something and have a plan at least.
Sometimes,
like you do. I've got envy of that plan.
To be honest, first time I've had the whiteboard, I used to have it on paper in my lap. Yeah. But when I used to watch back the pods, I used to think, it looks like I was reading a script, and that's not what I'm doing. It's just so that, like a minute ago, I was like, well, not a minute, but however long ago it was, where I was like, oh, what's I going to say? And there's keywords. Yeah. And then there's guidelines of the structure of the pod. Yeah. So they're like topics that I like to keep to, so that they're kind of the values of the pod. Yeah. And then that is about you. Yeah. I like it. Yeah, see, I bought a whiteboard that lasted a couple of days, and then the missus put it underneath the stairs because she's like, you don't use it. And I was like, but I will. I will. And then, I don't know where it is. And I need to keep on top of that more. Like, life can become very stressed and lose where you're at. Whereas if it's wrote down, there, it's in the ether. Yeah, this is my fave thing. I have notes upon notes, but this is just better because it's always out. Yeah. Whereas if you have notes on your phone, you just start a new note and then it's gone. Note and it gets lost in it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. But the last question I want to ask you, I ask every guest this: what do you define as independence? Ooh, that's a good one. What do I define as independence? What does it mean to you? I think it means independence for me has changed over the years. Independence meant I can do whatever I want on my own. It's not that. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's being comfortable in yourself. That's the way I feel about my independence now. And knowing yourself more than anything else. I feel like from the outside, everyone goes, independence, I live on my own. I'm a strong independent. You feel like that. I'm a strong independent woman. Yeah. I'm a strong independent man. I don't need nobody. I think independence is nothing like that. I think it's the ability to be able to trust yourself and your own decisions, but not also ignoring everyone else that's around you. I think that can be very dangerous. You see it a lot where people go, I won't listen to anyone. That's not the way to do it. Like, you have to be open to listening and then it's like driving. You learn certain ways and then after a while you just do your own thing. Yeah. You got your foot up on the dashboard. Like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. And I think independence is like that. You need to take everyone's information in and then find your own way and do what suits you. But just don't hurt anyone along the way. Yeah. Because then it means you're doing it wrong.
That's how I feel about it.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I like that response. Thank you.
That's okay.
Well, thanks so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you
This
very
has
much
actually
for
been
having
really
me.
fun.
It has.
This is definitely
yeah.
going to be 2 parts.
Oh, it's not turned on.
Don't say that. I've actually done that before.
Have you actually?
Yeah. I remember
take
it was
two.
the mics that did it as well. That's
Oh,
why I get
really?
Alex to check.
To check over him,
Because
yeah.
it definitely looked
That
like
would
it
have
was
been
working.
devastating.
Luckily, I don't know if you've met her before. Her name's Daisy. It was Daisy's pod. No one's ever noticed or picked up on it, but he had to do something with the audio from the camera to match it up and kind of make
Essentially
it
dub
sound make it sound like it
Was
came
it
out
slightly
of
out
mic.
like the Chinese films?
No, it just didn't pick up her mic and only mine.
Oh, right.
So luckily, the
once
camera-
she spoke, you had to turn. Oh, that's a shame. That's
So
a
he had to get the
nightmare.
levels of my mic and her from the camera so that they sounded even.
Oh,
So she's a bit echoey, but
yeah.
but I felt so bad because it was the first pod where I was like, yes, I can do this all by myself.
I'm a
And
strong,
then-
independent woman.
Yeah, that's literally been me my whole life.
I messed up. I didn't turn the mic on. Oh my god, it's so funny.
Thank you
That's
so much,
brilliant.
though.
Thank you for
This has
having
been
me.
fun.
It's been a pleasure.
Also, if you want anyone to find you, tell them your social media at.
It is at Louis J Ward 10 on Instagram and Facebook. Louis Ward. I'm on TikTok. I don't know what TikTok's Lou Ward 27. I know that for a fact. TikTok. I've started to be a bit more on TikTok, but like it's not my main. Instagram seems to be my main one. It's all about my son. So if you want to see a pretty little 16-month-old, he's on there. So yeah, Lou Ward, Louis J Ward.
How'd you spell that?
LOUISJWARD 10.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for watching. This is Burn My Mood podcast. You can find us on any social media platform, the ones that most people use. So that's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I don't know. I think I've even got Twitter, but I don't use Twitter. It's at Burn My Mood. So that's BURNMYMOOD. And if you're looking for my personal socials, it's JVicky98, JAIVICKY98. I can't remember if I just spelled that right.
I think you did.
Well, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.